All right. Happy 2018, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is take 2 for me. I started going without hitting start broadcast. And as I just explained to no one but Allie and myself, the link is different than the initial link that you received when you signed up for this webinar and that initial confirmation email. So I goofed and somehow hit start broadcast when Allie and I were doing our practice run. So I had to set up a new event. So this YouTube link to watch the live session or to go back and watch the recording is different than that initial link that you received when you signed up. So yesterday's reminder email and today's reminder email, I also just sent out a tweet. Those all include the correct link. But I do just want to note that in case anyone, if you know some colleagues who registered to receive the recording, all of that kind of stuff, that initial link is incorrect. So the reminder emails, the email that I will send out with a link to the recording, that will have the correct link. But just so you know, in case you have anyone who wants to tune in. So I apologize. I am also sick, so I am not firing on all cylinders. So I'm sure a lot of you can relate. And as I said before, again, to no one, it is hopefully you're all nice and warm. Somebody tuning in is they're excited that it's only negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit. So we do hope that you're all staying nice and warm. Maybe you're by the fire. Maybe you have a blanket. But we are so excited that you're joining us to kick off 2018 for our Playground webinar series. So as I said, we are ISTE's EdTech Coaches Network PLN. And your leadership team, here is the leadership team. With all of our Twitter handles and kind of the roles that we play within the PLN. We are always looking to make sure that this is your PLN, right? So we don't want to just come up with a bunch of stuff and push it out. So if you have ideas, you want to get involved, you're looking for more information, anything, reach out to any one of us. We welcome that feedback to improve this PLN and our offerings for you. You can connect with the PLN in any of these places. So really where the hub, the home spot is, where all of the action takes place is that PLN homepage, that first link that you see there. And I will share all of these links in the chat with you in just a minute. But that's really where, that's kind of the heart and soul of the PLN. That's where everything takes place. That's where we share a lot of private links that are available to only folks in the PLN. So a lot of the things we do are technically available to anyone. But that PLN homepage is where you're going to find anything that's really locked down to people who have to be members of ISTE. And again, to be a member of the PLN, it's free with your ISTE membership, but you do have to be a member of ISTE to officially be a part of our PLN. So if anyone has questions about that, just throw it in the chat and I can help you figure out how to make sure that you are an official member of the PLN. You would know because you would receive our monthly newsletter that comes from Ruth Okoya. But moving on, we're also very active on Twitter. So our official PLN Twitter account is @EdTechCoaches. And then we also share all of our learning, connect with one another using the hashtag #ETCoaches. And we have a Twitter chat at 1 and 8 p.m. on the last Tuesday of every month. And those are Eastern time zones. We have a Google Plus community, a Voxer community. If you're big into Voxer, you can contact Lisa Hervey. That is her Voxer handle and Twitter handle there to be added to our Voxer group. And then we also have a Remind group that you can join to receive reminders about our Twitter chats. I do want to note right now that we are accepting registration for our annual book study that takes place. That'll be starting up here soon in just a couple of weeks. So check it out either in the homepage, that PLN homepage, or check the hashtag or our official Twitter handle for information about how to register for the book study, which is Learning First, Technology Second. When you register, if you are an official ISTE member, you will receive an ebook version of the book that we'll be using for free. And we do our book study using Twitter, and you'll just use the ET Coaches hashtag, and we call it a slow chat. So we'll have one question per day, and you can respond to that question at any point in the day using our hashtag. It went over really well last year, so we're going to do it that way again. And then also, if you're joining us and you are an official PLN member, we, Google for Education, the Certified Trainer Program, recently reached out to us to see how they could support our PLN and our members and provide us with resources to help our members obtain their Google Certified Trainer status. So in that PLN homepage area, that bit.ly/ET Coaches PLN, that home base for our PLN in the ISTE Connect area, we have a discussion board going that has a link to a survey that we're collecting responses for, so that the leadership team and Google for Education Certified Trainer Program can best meet your needs. If the want and need is there to obtain the certified trainer status. So check that out too. I'll share links to all of that information again in the chat in just a minute when I'm finished introducing here too, so you don't have to worry about scrambling to find it now. So the moment that you're all here for is the webinar series. So just a very brief background on our Playground webinar series. We started this after last year's ISTE conference 2016, and we took some of the most popular playground presentations and we asked those folks to essentially present that same playground presentation again in a webinar. So we know that not everyone can financially make it to the conference in the summer. And even if you do make it to the conference, you know better than anybody that it is such a whirlwind and there's so much going on that you don't often get a chance to make it to everything that you want to see. So this is our way of essentially extending that conference experience to members throughout the year. So Allie was one of our chosen playground presenters. We have Nicole joining us. She kicked off this year's playground presentation. So thanks for tuning in again, Nicole. If anyone else is here who's presenting at one of our webinars, welcome. I just haven't seen you yet in the chat. And as I've mentioned, Allie is presenting tonight's topic, Instructional Archaeology, digging into reflection with teachers. And Allie Schultze is a consulting teacher in the Educational Technology Department of Baldwin County Public Schools in Alabama. Roll Tide for those of you who are excited about your national championship last night. This is her third year serving as a technology integration and instructional coach for teachers of Baldwin County. She currently is working towards her certification as a library media specialist and as a trainer in the eMint PD program. Previously, Allie worked as a teacher consultant for deaf and hard of hearing students in Battle Creek, Michigan. She has a bachelor's in deaf education and a master's in educational technology from Michigan State University. She currently lives in Mobile, Alabama with her husband, a college professor, and two lovely fur babies. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Allie.
Hello, how are you, Katie?
Good. We're so excited to have you.
Yay, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And Katie did an amazing job doing her introduction there. And oops, I wanted to share my screen with you guys, but it decided it had other ideas. So I'm going to make my screen a little bit smaller here so I can do my sharing. And so that way you can see some slides. There we go. Is that better?
Yes, we can see you.
All right, great. Okay, so as Katie said, I am Allie Schultze. I am a consulting teacher with the Baldwin County Public Schools. And I presented this presentation at ISTE in San Antonio this past summer. Feels like forever ago. Katie, you mentioned that there are some friends that are talking about negative 13-degree weather. Kind of thinking about that right now. I'm originally from Michigan, and I really, I kind of miss the colder temperatures. Down here in the Gulf Coast, we don't get them doesn't quite get that bad down here. But if you'd like to follow along with me, I have a link right there at the bottom of the screen to this exact presentation. So feel free to click and follow along as I click. But there I am again. This is my third year with the Baldwin County Public Schools, and we are based in Loxley, Alabama, so way down south, right towards the water there. I went to Michigan State University and am a proud Spartan and received my bachelor's in deaf education and master's in educational technology. Uh, there's always two things that people need to know about me, and one of them is that I'm from Michigan and very proud of it, born and raised outside of Detroit, and that I play roller derby. So I will be happy to entertain any questions about roller derby when we're done too. I also am a trainer in the eMINTS PD program, and it was really the eMINTS program that's given me this opportunity and the experience in coaching teachers. With this program, I facilitate sessions that take place in the evening with some other teachers, and it is all teacher training. And then we go out into the classrooms to offer coaching to those teachers that are in the program. So we discuss lesson design, building student community and engagement. We talk about authentic learning and incorporating tech tools. So I spend a lot of time with my teachers reflecting on lessons that are taught in order to help them recognize their strengths and weaknesses. But most importantly, I help them to see their own growth through the eMINTS program as an educator. So it's been nice for me as a coach to see how much reflection benefits the teachers that I work with. I also want to point out that my presentation, because the theme for the ISTE playground this past summer was the many hats of a coach. When I submitted my application, I thought, what's the coolest hat? And it was obviously Indiana Jones's hat. So that's kind of where I got my theme idea. So that's why you'll see some random pictures of archaeological sites like that. I don't actually work there, but I thought it would tie in quite nicely. So often we as teachers, we plan, and then we execute a lesson and never really go back to think about that lesson. Teachers, we often have to move on into planning for the next lesson, and often don't get to take the time to reflect on what went well and what didn't during the lessons that we just completed. So having somebody like a coach can be a valuable tool in the reflection process, even if that coach just has to remind the teacher to stop and smell the roses, as it were. Being able to think back and pull apart aspects of a lesson can really help our teachers better their practice and better support their students. They'll be able to see patterns in the successes and struggles of certain strategies and better understand what works in their classroom. Over time, teachers will be able to use the strategies that were successful and benefit their students, and know what strategies don't work for them and be able to stay away from them. They're creating a better learning environment for their students, as well as meeting everybody's needs. The more in-depth teachers can get into the reflection process, the more they'll be able to learn about their own strengths, as well as the strengths of their students. And of course, we know that this will lead to a more cohesive environment and better opportunities for our students to grow. As coaches, we can offer a different perspective if teachers are looking for feedback on successes and struggles of a lesson. More importantly, we can ask the questions that will allow teachers to really think about successes and struggles for themselves and for their students. So allowing them to reach their own conclusions will lead to better understanding on their part and better future planning than if a person were to just give them the answers. And really, though, this isn't so different than what we do for our students, right? We want to guide them to their own conclusions, but not outright give them the answer. We already know this methodology leads to deeper understanding, so we want to support our teachers in this process without spoon-feeding them. So while the focus of our discussion tonight is not exactly on goal setting, I wanted to point out that part of the quote that deals with goal clarification, because goal setting can be an integral part of coaching and can be well supported by the reflection process. Helping our teachers set goals allows them the chance to measure their own growth and compare what they're doing now with what they've done before. So pulling in and connecting reflection to these goals can be really powerful for our teachers and really help to boost confidence as they move forward, as well as help to drive them to use new ideas and strategies that they'll want to reflect on later. Before you can schedule a coaching conversation, it's important to build trust and rapport with the teachers that you're coaching. Having a good relationship with the teachers will not only put them at ease when you come into the classroom, but it will help them to be more likely to open up to you during the reflection process. It will also help you to know the teacher a little bit better and be able to provide better guidance. I typically suggest meeting with a teacher a few times before doing an observation and having a coaching conversation in order to kind of build that relationship with the teachers. And then, again, you'll get a much better sense of who they are as an instructor and kind of what they might be looking for feedback for. It's also important that the teacher understands that coaching conversations aren't meant to be evaluations. Okay, so there's this idea that if someone is watching you teach, they're focusing on what you're doing wrong. And then teachers get anxious and then things do start to go wrong. And before you know it, what the observer is seeing is not anything like what the classroom typically is like. So in many places, observation often has negative connotations. But then again, of course, you always have your folks who don't mind at all when there's another adult in the room. And but this is something, again, that you're going to have to look for with your teachers before you have these observations and coaching conversations. To help build that trust and rapport is going to be really important with them as well. So if they do get nervous having people watching them, you can kind of help quell that because you've already kind of made that connection and made them feel comfortable with you. So when having coaching conversations, it's important to focus on the teacher's reflective thoughts. Okay, so this is their process, and we're just helping them kind of navigate through it. I struggle with this because I always want to help my teachers. So if they reflect on a struggle or they talk about a problem that they're having, I immediately want to jump into helper mode and offer suggestions or even provide like an anecdote or a situation that was similar that I had. But we don't want to do that as much because we want to make sure that we're focusing on them. So I always have to remind myself to keep the focus on the teachers and building their reflective skills rather than, again, just trying to give them answers. Since we're focusing on our teachers and their thoughts, interpersonal communication skills are going to be vital. We need to not only be active listeners and take stock into what our teachers are saying, but we need to convey that we value what they're saying. Paraphrasing what they said or starting with the statement, what I heard you say is always a good way to help you process as the coach what they're telling you, but can also offer the opportunity for the teacher to clarify anything if needed. So that way you can get a real good understanding of what they're telling you. There are cognitive coaching methods that talk about open body language and mirror techniques. The way we sit at a table or stand in a hallway while talking to our teachers can communicate different things non-verbally. If our stance is a little more closed, that might make the teacher feel less comfortable and not as willing to share certain things or can kind of give off negative energy, as silly as that may sound. But standing open and making sure you have an open stance can also invite more discussion and conversation with your teachers. I think working with deaf and hard of hearing students in the past has kind of made me hyper aware of this because body language is so important to communicating with using sign language. So we want to convey our open stance and show our teachers that we are open to their thoughts. So this is an example scaffold of how you can structure a reflecting conversation. This is the model we use for our EMINS training. Starting the conversation with a general overview from the teacher on how the lesson went is a good way to start because it's nice and broad. If the teacher had specific goals, you can always ask, how did it go with that strategy you wanted to try? The how do you know section, that second step, kind of digs a little bit deeper and is asking what made them think the lesson went a certain way. If there's something they thought was particularly successful, you can ask them to elaborate on why they thought it was successful. See if you can point them to something specific that happened to give them that feeling of success. Like, what was it about this activity that made you feel, like it was successful? Why was it so? The third step there goes more into the learning environment and the factors that contributed to the outcome of the lesson. So not necessarily the actual delivery of the lesson, but maybe some of the other environmental factors. So it can also tie in some of that student engagement as well. Not just, and it's not just kind of a were they engaged or were they not engaged, but more how. How do they engage with the lesson and the activity? What might the students say about this? So, what would feedback from the students be on the lesson? Or even what factors influence the success of the lesson? Did the fire alarm go off and completely derail the lesson? Well, it happens all the time, doesn't it? Were you feeling particularly enthusiastic about the topic? Factors like this can change how the lesson is delivered. And so we want to think about what other things contributed to the outcome of the lesson with this step. The how did you grow section is where you can pull in the goals that the teacher had discussed with you, hopefully, prior to the observation. Here, you can have the teacher consider what they've learned about themselves in a professional manner, as well as what they want to do looking ahead. So something like, okay, now we've accomplished A, B, and C. What would you like to focus on next? Here you want the teacher to start thinking about future lessons. The final section asks teachers to look forward a little bit more, reflecting on how their new knowledge that they've gained through the rest of the process will be used in the future. Perhaps something they tried worked really well and they definitely want to use it again. Or something totally bombed and they never want to use that strategy again. We'll come across many of those. This is where we want the teacher to really show how they've grown by using new skills. So, but also to prepare to start to almost get ready to start the process over again with a new set of goals or a new aspect or strategy that they want to be observed with. So when setting up an observation, you typically meet with the teacher beforehand, discuss what the lesson will be on, and what goals the teacher may be trying to address, if there are any, or if there are any specific aspects of a lesson that they want feedback on. Then the coach will come in for the observation and the follow-up and have the follow-up reflection conversation, afterwards. Sometimes you're able to meet with the teacher immediately after the lesson, but usually it's at a later date. This can sometimes be troublesome because even if you are taking good notes, you're going to miss some things because you're going to be looking down at your paper or typing on your computer. You're gonna miss stuff. It just happens. But also, if the teacher gets caught up in the moment and they're getting really energized in what they're doing and they're just really going with the flow, they might not always remember everything that happens in the lesson either. So they might not always have all of the details. So what we do in Baldwin County is we're starting to use some digital tools that will help us with our coaching sessions. So now, of course, these aren't the only tools that are available. There's lots out there, but I wanted to give you an idea of kind of what we're doing using in our district and what's going well for us. We use the Swivl robot accompanied with a dedicated iPod. And we also have a subscription to a web-based program called Talent by Torch. But before I get into the tools, I wanted to give just a quick word of caution because we in our county, we use these tools purely for observation as well as feedback. Okay, we don't want to use these tools for teacher evaluation. We want to make sure that it's just completely between the teacher and the coach. We don't even give administrators, without the teacher's permission at least, access to the videos that are made using the Swivl, because we want it to be a complete coaching session, and we don't want there to be any, we don't want anybody to misconstrue that it could be part of their evaluation. It just helps with that comfort level for the teacher because sometimes using a new tool can get difficult. Or teachers can get flustered if they have, something in front of them or they know they're being recorded. We just want it to be, completely informal, and we want the teachers to be comfortable with it. So we try and really separate that observation and evaluation side of it. So yeah, we want to make sure that it's completely just for the teacher and the coach for feedback. But that isn't to say, of course, that if the teacher had a goal from, say, their personal learning plan or whatever you use for your teacher evaluations and growth monitoring, that they couldn't use it. But you definitely want to have that conversation with the teacher to make sure that it would be okay. Again, that's going to go back to that trust and rapport and that comfort level that you and the teacher are going to have with each other. Okay, so with the Swivl, and you can see I have this little, just a little clip of a video of how it works here. The robot, it's a swivel robot, and so if you don't already know, it's a 360-degree camera that on a stand or just on a table, and it moves with a speaker or with the speaker. So you can see as I'm moving around, the camera is following me. So there's no cameraman back there. It's just the robot. So I'm wearing a microphone that also has a sensor on it, and the robot rotates and tilts depending on where the sensor goes. So I propped up an iPod. Actually, that may have even been my phone because it's the Swivl app has, is good for Android or Apple. And you just prop your device up on the robot and it records using the camera. So we have a dedicated iPod for each Swivl. So that way they're all set up with generic accounts and we can check them out to teachers or to coaches and teachers, and they can hopefully, use it easily and not have to use their own login information and such. Videos are automatically uploaded to the Swivl cloud, so they don't take up space on the device. And you can even download the videos from the site if you want, or you can share them directly with somebody else who has a Swivl account. And it also allows the Swivl cloud, I should mention, has unlimited storage. So we always enjoy our unlimited storage of things. So that's nice that they actually just started doing that a couple years ago. That's even just all with the free version. There is a Swivel Pro version that you can use if you prefer. So you can see here from this screenshot that you can share videos with people and even groups and do commenting. So you can stop the video at certain points and you can see it gives like a timestamp here, and you can stop the video at certain points and insert comments and have a conversation that way, which is pretty cool. And like I said, you can share them with several other people as opposed to just maybe one other person. But what we use in Baldwin, we use a program called Talent, which is a video upload program that allows for annotation. So it feels a little bit like Edpuzzle if you're familiar with that program, except the video doesn't stop wherever we insert a comment. Once we've taken the video with the Swivl, we upload it to Torch and are able to drop notes in at certain points of the video. We found this extremely helpful and allows for a more thorough observation. It's also great for if scheduling an observation is difficult, or if you have a teacher that kind of gets anxiety from having somebody in the room. I know when I was in the classroom, it didn't matter if it was, just a passerby or a colleague or whoever. If somebody was watching me, I just, for some reason, would stumble or just do, mess something up somewhere. So I know I'm probably not the only one. I've even had teachers record a few lessons and then choose which lesson they want to share in order to get some feedback. So that's helpful too. If you have some teachers who get a little nervous when they've got the technology or a camera or a person watching them. So that helps. And it just kind of allows some flexibility, which is really nice. And because, we have those situations like where the fire alarm goes off, or you had scheduled something, but then there was an assembly, or you just couldn't get your schedules coordinated to set up a face-to-face observation. This is just another a nice option. So this screenshot here just kind of shows what the dashboard would look like. You can see all the, any upcoming active sessions. You can have multiple sessions with multiple teachers going. And this is just a screenshot, so I'm not going to navigate it or anything, but you can see it'll have to-do lists if you wanted to set up meetings, pending meetings, and any reminders if you had set yourself some reminders to reply to a video or whatever. It's pretty helpful. We prefer this program in Baldwin County, not only because of the annotation, but because each annotation can also be commented on, which is really neat. It allows for a digital conversation on specific aspects of lessons. This allows us as coaches to go deep into the reflection process with our teachers and can even focus on just one strategy or one aspect of a lesson at a time. So that's pretty cool. And it also because we're not limited on time either. You know, a face-to-face coaching conversation or reflective conversation can go for some time, but usually ends like when the bell rings or when the kids have to get picked up from special or, you know, the next thing has to happen in the teacher's day. So taking the conversation online can really allow for some more time to mentally process the lesson, as well as any questions and feedback. And it can allow for a deeper understanding of the teacher's skill set, which I've found really beneficial. And I've noticed a difference between doing coaching conversations digitally versus face to face. I'm really liking it. So I always end presentations that I give with how will this benefit my students? Or in this case, because we're talking about teachers, how will this benefit my teachers? Because what's the point of doing something or learning about something or talking about something if there's no benefit to the students or teachers? So I always like to touch on that. From the digital aspect, using tools like Swivel or Torch can allow teachers to not only alleviate any of that audience anxiety that I was talking about, but watching themselves on video can also give them an idea of what they look like teaching and show them things that they're doing that they don't realize that they're doing. Sometimes teachers will comment on things like, do I really move my hands that much? Or I didn't even realize I walked around so often, you know, good and bad. They usually notice something that they didn't realize that they did. It can really help with build their self-awareness too. I mean, that all goes with it. They can also go back and review older videos and literally see the growth that they've made on any goals or strategies that they were hoping to work on. So at the end, and also at the end of the day, they'll have a vault of videos to use for development portfolios or anything else that they might need. You know, like a resume website, or just if they need just work samples. I also like that the conversations don't have to be limited to just one sitting. And they can be ongoing, and you can even cycle back to some of the videos or some of the reflection pieces at a later date. So really being able to sit down and put some really a good amount of time into some of these reflections can just make it that much more beneficial. I probably don't need to tell you why the reflective process benefits teachers, but I do want to share with you a couple of my takeaways, my personal takeaways. I think supporting teachers through the reflective process and helping them find understanding is a huge, huge benefit. We're teaching them how to think about their own teaching practices. And the hope is that they eventually will be able to reflect on their lessons on their own without the help of a coach. But getting there takes time. And as we've seen, it can be quite a process. So I think this is something that we should be, we should be encouraging them to do this. We know that reflection leads to better teaching practices. So this is something we should be encouraging all of our teachers to do, whether it's with us or on their own. I think that it allows teachers the flexibility to try new things as well. There's lots of teachers who are reluctant to try new things or strategies because they're concerned about it going wrong. And, if it goes wrong, the students aren't learning, and so they're not making that progress. So that makes teachers really apprehensive to try new things and do something different. But even if I think with the reflective process, it teaches our teachers that even if some things do go wrong in a lesson, we know how to reflect on it and can figure out what went wrong, and we can build on it from there. And so it will, kind of help them hopefully develop a little more confidence in themselves as an educator to try some of those new things that could be beneficial for their students. here's just a couple pieces that I cited in this presentation, but mostly that's my piece on helping teachers reflect. I hope if you guys had any questions, because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat. I can't see if you guys have any questions. I hope you do. I'm really interested to know what you guys are doing for your teachers and helping them reflect in this process as coaches. So I want to hear your thoughts as well, because I always, I'm sure part of the reason you're here is because you like to hear other perspectives. I like to hear other perspectives as well. So I want to hear what your thoughts are on what you guys are doing to help your teachers. Other than that, happy digging and happy helping your teachers to reflect.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. We do have one question right now. So Pam said this sounds like something that she might want to write a grant for. Can you please share general cost for the Swivl and the annotation program? Forgetting what the name of that is called.
Torch, yeah. The Swivl robots, I believe, were between $300 and $400 a piece. We bought several at a time, so I think we got a bulk discount. And Torch is a little more expensive. It's per account. So if you had, 10, and again, depending on how many accounts you purchase, the cost would vary. I don't know if I could even give you an estimate on the Torch cost, but I would recommend, visiting their site. They were really friendly to work with for us, and they were really receptive to any feedback, and they wanted to know how we were using it. So they were quite interested in the process. So it's been really cool to work with them. But yeah, as far as the per account, I don't even think I could give you an estimate, because it would depend on how many accounts you were purchasing. Sorry.
Thanks. I'm sure that's helpful, though, at least with the Swivl piece.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you. And like Allie said, guys, keep those questions coming in the chat. And then if you have any strategies, tools, sites, anything that you use for teacher reflection and observation, share those ideas in the chat too.
Yes.
But I have a question for you. We're waiting to see if any more questions come in. What would be like the biggest tip that you would give people to make sure not to skip if they were implementing a program like this with using the same tools or similar tools? And what would be the one thing that if you could do it all differently that you would do differently this time? And they might kind of be the same answer.
Okay. Well, as far as what not to skip, that building that relationship with the teacher is going to be key. You want to have a good working relationship with your teachers, because that's how they're going to open up to you. That's how they're really going to be able to show you what they've got. And even having a relationship with the students too. Even going in there and doing like a community building activity, or one of my favorite things to do is breakout boxes. Doing a breakout even with the students and just becoming part of that classroom community is going to help make the teacher and the kids a lot more comfortable. Because even kids too, sometimes, they get nervous, or they notice when there's another adult in the room and they start to behave differently. But if you're part of their community, then it won't matter, and you'll get a really natural look of what that classroom looks like. And I think that'll only better your understanding of the teacher and the classroom. But it'll give you better opportunities for when you go do that observation and those reflective conversations to really dig deep with some strategies and some of that reflection. So yeah, I would say building that relationship with your teachers is going to be numero uno. As far as doing something differently, I think as a coach, sometimes this process, and even reading, through the presentation and thinking about all the things that this is just one teacher that you do this with. I think if I could, of course I don't get to decide the number of teachers that I work with. It's need based, and we do what we can, but I would love to have a smaller number of teachers, so that I could get really, really deep into some of the reflection and really deep into coaching with them. But again, nature of the beast, we just we help in whatever way we can and support our teachers as best we can. But if I had a magic wand and could do one thing, that's probably what I would do. And then there'd be coaches for everybody, you know, it'd be a lovely thing. But again, we just have to, you know, help our teachers as best we can. And even the steps that I was talking about that our eMINTS program does, that having that structure can kind of help in terms of a direction to go with your teachers and help with that time. And, you know, maybe you can get coordinate all your teachers so you're working on similar parts of the process together. But yeah.
Great. And then another question from Pam. Do your teachers volunteer to participate?
Yes. So yeah, they are the teachers that I work with are all part of the eMINTS program. The eMINTS program, that it's a professional development program that we have we've had it in about 10 years. But it is all volunteer based. Teachers apply and are accepted to the program. And part of the program is having the mentor coach teacher. So yeah, all of our teachers are volunteers, and they know that this is part of the package. So we've, you know, had very good luck with having teachers that are very open and welcoming to having a coach come in. I still do have some of those teachers that, you know, have that little bit of anxiety, don't like to be watched. So we do several meetings beforehand, just during planning or in passing, or you know, I sit down with them during our sessions. All of our sessions happen in the evening, so there's a dinner break. And I think having that dinner break with our during our eMINT sessions is really beneficial to help build that relationship that's so important. So yeah, we've been fortunate enough that all of the teachers that I work with, at least, are volunteers.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to put up on the screen now. Again, if you do have more questions, ideas, keep them coming in the chat. I do want to put on the screen now for you before everybody starts to trickle out, is our link to our contact hour form. We like to collect some feedback on the webinar. I also pasted it in the chat for you. But if you do want to receive a contact hour certificate, just fill out this form and include your name and email when you're prompted in order to get the contact hour certificate emailed to you. If Allie and I will wait around here for about another minute. There haven't been more questions coming in for a couple minutes though. So if there are no further questions, again, thank you so much for joining us to kick off 2018 here. Next month, let me flip back to the slide really quickly just to pull it up. Next month is February 13th, and that will be The Walking Coach, Escape the Office by Adam Morez and Catherine Goyette. So that will be another awesome webinar. So lots of thank yous coming into you, Allie, from the participants. I would like to personally thank you for giving up your time to present with us. And I, for one, am a huge fan of Indiana Jones. So I love the connection that you made there with coaches.
And you know I'm wearing my fedora while doing this.
Yes. So nice.
Thank you so much for having me, Katie. This was really great. And I know you plugged it at the beginning, but the slow chat, I had the opportunity to participate last year, and it was really, really cool. I will be moderating a couple of days, so watch for my Twitter handle at AllieBCBE. But I highly recommend the slow chat if you're considering it, because it was just a really cool. It's just a really cool thing to do, and I learned tons, and the free book is really neat.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Guys, we're going to go ahead and end it now. So you've got all of the links. I will email as soon as we're done. I'll email the correct link to the recording that you watched live. And I will also include the chat archive, just so that you do have all of the links and access to all of that as well in your email. So everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you on February 13th for our next webinar. Have a wonderful rest of the week.